So for us, our big brand language is, I want you to show up to defining moments with the mentality of, I have done too much work in the dark to lose in the light.
Mm.
And that's that tie to the athletes I was talking about.
Mhm.
When they show up, they have done more things than anyone's ever seen them do. It's not just the workouts for 2 hours. It's when they go to bed, when they wake up, their meditation, the food they eat, the food that they didn't eat,
Yes.
the relationships they had hard conversations with, the things they weren't settling for. These things they did when they get to that game day, it's like, it's not a, can I do this? I don't know if they're like, let me loose. It's my time. Like,
How are entrepreneurs like us daring bravely to build a stage, ditch the sweatpants, and step up to the mic? How do we create our own transformative events so we can get our message out into the world in a bigger way? It's not only profitable, but it's actually something we can be proud of. That's the question. And the answers are inside this podcast. My name is Sarah Pfeiffer. Welcome to Green Room Central. Today, I've brought into Green Room Central Studios Anthony Trucks. Anthony is a former NFL player, peak performance coach, and a best-selling author who defied the odds of foster care and personal struggles to achieve massive success. From experiencing devastating setbacks to rebuilding his life and identity, Anthony has really mastered the art of shift making to align his identity with his life's vision. He now dedicates his life to coaching others through their transformative identity shifts, sharing the powerful lessons that reshaped his journey. And I first kind of came across Anthony when he was speaking on a stage at a personal development event I went to. And I watched him over the years, several years in a row. I ended up in a room where he was on the stage, and I watched him evolve as, like, I thought he was an amazing speaker the first time I saw him. And then I watched him get exponentially better, a massive shift. And it was so fun for me to watch as an audience member. And now he transforms lives around the world as a paid speaker and coach. And I'm so excited for you to dive into this episode with me and Anthony as we talk about how to shift your identity, what's it like to be in the room, and so many other fun things. Let's get started. Anthony, welcome to Green Room Central Studios. Say hello to Lynchpin Nation.
hello, Lynchpin Nation. My name is Anthony Trucks. I'm excited to serve you guys today.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to have you. I've been really looking forward to this conversation, kind of like kid in a candy store. I have so many questions for you. I don't know if we'll have time to get through all of them, but you know, I think I found you through a common mentor, Brandon Burchard.
Yep.
In fact, I think the very first event I went to with him, you were on that stage, and you know, but as I dove deeper to research for this episode, you know, and I'm learning about how many commonalities we have to each other, you know, both being parents and entrepreneurs. And I think we're both dog parents too. And, you know, it's just like this passion for excellence that I see in you and is just one of my highest values. So anyways, so excited. I thought I'd start by asking you a kind of a fun question. Have you tell us a story. So this podcast is based on the belief that being in the room is everything. And a little backstory for you. About 6 years ago, I made my way into my very first personal development seminar. 4 days, happened to be a Brendon Burchard seminar. And within 11 months of being in that room, I had left the Midwest, where I'd been my entire life, moved myself to the Pacific Northwest, sold our house. I left a 16-year corporate career and started my own business, got out of a decade and a half of debt I'd been under. It's just like a massive shift.
Overhaul.
And to start us off today, I'm wondering if you would share a story of a room that you made it into that changed your life.
Oh, man, there's a bunch of rooms I made it into. Well, I did start in a Brendon Burchard room. It's interesting. I think
really?
I might one of the few people who ever was like an audience member who became like a part of his mastermind. Like I'm a buddy of mine. I can shoot him a text right now. Like, what's going on? You know? But here's what it was. I have always been in a position where I was like giving away as a kid, didn't have much.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stories. I think one that would probably relate to the entrepreneurial world is the one you're talking to. I got
Yeah.
done with the NFL, came home, had a gym that I ran, degree in kinesiology, novel idea for an athlete, going to fitness.
Right. Yeah.
And then I got to my position of like, kind of building. And then I got introduced to this guy named Jadon Cherry. Jadon's a guy that opens or runs a company called Fire Alumni. What they do is they train firefighters to go out into the world and be better. And part of the thing
Oh,
they do is
cool.
called the Sea Best. So when I was in fitness, I was teaching the firefighters how to get in better shape to do their thing. He goes, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and record these videos. We're going to put them online and allow people to pay us money to access them. And I
Okay.
go, that's blasphemy. What are you talking about? Everything's going to be in person. That's how fitness works. He goes, no, this guy, Brennan Bouchard, in fact, he does this. I'm going to give you a link. So I go, all right. So I get this link and I open it up and I'm sitting in a Starbucks in Brentwood, California there. It was like, 10 in the morning. I'm watching this guy, Brendan, in front of a flip chart with little sticky notes, flipping
Yeah.
papers
Yeah.
and writing it. He's so energetic and talking. And I'm like, I got to do this, And he goes, your story is a thing you can actually make a living off of if you do it properly. You teach from it. I go, great. It's called Experts Academy. So I found myself maybe 2 months later at an event because it happened to be in Santa Clara, California,
Yeah.
about an hour and a half north or south of me. So I drive down, I walk into this room and there's 2,000 people and everybody's clapping hands and they're hanging out. I'm like, this is weird. This is
Yes.
not, I'm not a football guy. We don't like jump and high five and tell our life stories. And so I'm doing this whole thing. And then, sure enough, by like day 2, I'm clapping, I'm jumping, I'm having fun, you're
Yep.
all engaged in it. And it opens this idea. And the idea is like, maybe there's more to life. Maybe
Mhm.
there's something you can do that you haven't done or you're supposed to do, you haven't been doing. And I remember I got to the back of this room and there's like a spot where they put you together. It goes, hey, 3 or 5 people, get in a group and answer this question, this question, this question. He's really big on doing this. I go, okay,
Yes.
we get a little group, we talk. Unbeknownst to me, one of the people in the group was some of the people that were part of the staff. And they just happened to hear my story. One of them tells somebody else and, telephone effect happens. And next thing you know, I'm standing in front of one of the people. They go, tell me your story. And I tell them my story and they go, that's great. And then they just kind of let me go. So I went to like 3 or 4 more events. And at one point in time, they go, hey, would you like to volunteer? I go, I'd love to volunteer. Now, I come from the NFL, meaning I've been around big names. I don't really, not that I don't care that they're a big name, but I don't have this like, oh my gosh, it's so-and-so,
Yes.
I go, they're
Yes.
a human, like, it's cool. So I had no intention of meeting him. It wasn't a design. I was like, I wanted to be just there. And I didn't meet him for probably a couple events, to be quite honest. Like, I was
Really.
just volunteering in the front and like never even talked to him. But at one point, there's a spot where Mel Abraham, who's like his right-hand guy, he had to go to
Yeah.
do something for his business. And he goes, hey, do you mind being Brennan's escort? Because you kind of look like security. I go, all right. And I go, that makes sense. So I go, yeah. So, next thing you know, I'm walking Brendan back and he asks, hey, what's your story? And I kind of get a little chat with him for like maybe 5 minutes while we're walking. And little by little, I get to a point where eventually, like, I'm volunteering every event. I'm kind of with him and hanging out with the rest of the crew. We're just talking, and he finds out that I do this fitness stuff, or did. He wanted to put this product together for people. He's like, let's do it together. So I find myself in Portland, Oregon, at a tea shop with him, creating this whole amazing idea,
Yeah.
shooting it. I want to say a couple of days later, shooting the whole thing, and essentially me going into a room of 2,000 people put me in a position where I want to say it might have been 2 years later, maybe 3 years max later. I'm on his stage in front of 2,000 people at High Performance Academy in 2016, just for the first time speaking in front of a group that large. And it all happened because I simply showed up to that room. I could have got a ticket when I was in Brentwood and not gone. I could have just did the course online and not
Yeah.
shown up. But me showing up put me in a position where I sat, put me in a position who heard me, put me in a position like these little things that stacked it over. But
Yeah.
the showing up and being present quite literally was the linchpin to me being here now.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like my story is so similar because I was just like started with one of those black and white YouTubes and, ended up a year later, like, I have no idea why this is happening, but I need to be in this room. And it was 2017 fall, like HPA.
Yeah.
And I was like, it blew my mind open because I had up until that moment only been producing events where people had to, we paid their way. They had to be there and they didn't want to be there. And I'm sitting in the exact opposite style of room and just mind blown. And that was the seed that got planted where I was like, oh my gosh, it took me a full year to realize like that's the space I'm supposed to be serving because I'm next to people who are like, oh, I want to do this too. But I'm scared or I don't know how. And I'm just sitting there thinking like, well, I know how. And this is like my favorite thing to do. And I know how the wizard behind the curtain works. And But
Yeah.
it took me a minute to put it together. But then, yeah, at that event, I learned about Experts Academy and went the next month. And at that event, I learned about the world's greatest speaker, went to that, brought my husband
Mm.
to the next
It
HBA. It's
just
like,
goes and goes and goes.
yeah,
Yeah.
it did. It was just life changing.
Yeah. That's how it works. Here's what I would say though. It's life changing because you did something with what you learned. Because I will say this, and you
Oh,
could probably attest to this, 2,000 plus people in the room,
yeah,
majority of people will go, take notes, and never open the notebook again.
yeah,
Never act on it again. They'll go to the same event year after year after year.
yeah.
I actually remember being at the first one, and I was walking to lunch in Santa Clara. You go across the spot to Burrito Zilla, and I was by myself. I just went by myself. I remember overhearing somebody go, "Yes, my 7th event," and my head goes, "What? It's an educational event. Why? What do you need to learn in 7 different times you haven't already learned by taking action
Yeah.
on it?" And
Yeah.
I'm just built differently because I'm like, I heard it, I'm doing it. So
Yep.
like I started doing a video a day. I did 1,333 straight days of video, a 90-second video, posting it every single day, 3.65 years. And that's one of the reasons I think also they asked me to show up because they were seeing me do the work. If I was a guy
Yes.
showing up and clapping hands, I would have never asked to be volunteer, like to actually show up and serve. I would have never asked they wouldn't have
100%.
put me in a position to be a representative of his brand because I wasn't doing the work, right? So the big thing is, while yes, it's good to be there, yet you have to realize that you being there is just a way for you to get access to information and an experience other people won't have, but then act on it. And so many people don't, unfortunately.
And I think because I'm a doer, like my superpower is like that I keep going. Like I'm like you, like an implementer.
Just work, yeah.
I make stuff happen. I do the
Mhm.
work. And it took me a while to realize, wait, like actually not everyone in here is doing the thing that he says you
Oh
have
no,
to go do. And it really
maybe
was like,
1%.
it really broke my brain.
Yeah, like 1%. That's why they call it the 1%ers. The 1 to 3% of people. That's there are a lot of things. I had a conversation about this recently. I haven't played the NFL where less than 0.5% of people will get a chance to go play ever in the
Mm,
world.
mm,
When I trickle it back, and you hear this all the time, some of the best players never played the game,
yeah.
right? Some of the best athletes, some of the, they never actually got on a football field because they couldn't take care of the training or the recovery or the
Mm,
grades, or
mm.
they didn't listen to coaching, right? All these different nuanced pieces. And so people look at it and they go, oh, well, it's because they were 1% of 1% athlete. No, 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 no. It's because they chose to be 1% everywhere, not 1% in one place.
Oh,
And so I look at the NFL, and I played there, and I know, like, I look at people and go, I could tell it. Like, I had a kid that recently got drafted in the 2nd round that I used to train at my gym.
mm,
When he was 8 years old, I told his dad, this kid's going to probably play in the NFL. You may ask why, because I remember sitting there watching him in a room of 60 people at 8 years old, youngest in the room, with all these high school kids that were complaining and doing their stuff and falling out. When we're doing these plank holds, the kid would hold it. He would cry because of the pain, but he was never going to let himself break. And I looked at him, I go, this kid's different. He not only is he a guy that can play the game, but he prepares differently. He's 8 doing this, right? That's a mentality that people don't have. So becoming a 1% isn't just, do you have this innate skill set? It's, do you have the 1% effort? And that's the limiting factor. And you can work into it, but it's like you look and go, oh, 1%. Yeah, that just means that 99% of people weren't willing to give. They were capable of giving, but a lot of them just weren't willing to give. Now, yes, some aren't the athletes, some don't have the skill sets.
yeah.
But I think if you can get to that point of the 1% effort, it becomes less of a, like, 99 to 1 and more like a 50-50 or even better, because so few people will give that 1% effort.
Mm. My kiddo, they just started dry land practice in addition
For
to
something.
being in the pool.
Yeah.
And one of the first activities this week was doing wall sits. And it was like, well, just like last person to be on the
Yeah.
wall gets to pick the game at the end of practice.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't give up.
hmm
Even when they said, okay, like we're going to be done because like there's too many people still on the wall. She waited until like everyone else
Everybody
got
got
off. And I was like, I was
Hell yeah.
so proud in that moment.
I would be too. I'm quite like, hell yeah, get it. I might not be proud about it. I might actually say something out loud. There's something to that. And that's, you can't teach that, man. You, especially at a young age, you can't. When you get older, you become presently aware of it. And then people, they get to worlds where they're like, I don't like being here. And the hard part
Mm,
is if they really were to own up to it, they go, well, it's my fault.
yeah.
I cut the corner. I watched too
Yeah.
much TV. I
Yep.
didn't take care of my body. I didn't have the hard conversations. I didn't send those emails out when I was supposed to. And then they go, oh, my business is failing. No, you failed the business. Because
Mm,
with the right plan, I don't know anybody that fails when they have the right plan and they work it, even a crappy plan. But if you work, the plan will make itself right because you're not going to work for nothing. But most people fail the plan before the plan fails them.
Oh, so good. I want to stay in the vein of events for a little bit. It's my favorite
Let's do
thing.
it.
I'm always
I'm
so
sorry
in
I'm going
awe.
making tangents. I do this.
What
I
did you say?
just start talking sometimes. I'm like, I know you have questions, and I realize you have questions, so I'm gonna stop going long-winded. My apologies there.
I know I have so many. I'm excited to get to. Okay, so I'm always so in awe and full of honor and deep appreciation for really good speakers.
Mhm.
And that's you in my book,
Thank
because
you.
I've seen a lot, as a person who's produced events for over 20 years now. I know what it's like to move an audience and to kick off transformation inside of a room, and you do that as part of your everyday work, speaking on stages. And I wonder if you'd share what you're most grateful for as you step off the stages that you speak, and like what tugs at your heartstrings. And I'm guessing
Hmm.
there's, you've done so many, and there's
Yeah,
probably still a spark that,
always.
you're like, I want to go home and tell my wife Christina about this, or my kids. Like, what is it?
Yeah. You know what's interesting? So it's gonna sound odd, but I am happy with the moment that I may never be part of or present or privy to that'll happen years down the road. And it sounds weird to say it this way, but like when I come home, my wife and kids don't always ask like, "How was the speech? How was work, Dad?" Because
Mm,
I don't bring it home like that. I'm not like, "Hey guys, I'm amazing. I was on the stage. I'm so great." I'll show them some clips, and it's like it's pretty cool. But I'm just dad, man. It's like, Dad, can
yeah.
you fix this? This is broken.
Uh-huh.
Hey, honey, can you take the laundry, switch the laundry? Like I'm a dad. I'm really a regular human, right? And so for me, it's like I love that I get to go up there and I get to pour out. And here's why, because there'll be, I guess, one big moment, but there's two together. One moment is going to be one where I am fulfilled. I love that I get to go and serve people, and I feel like I'm doing something I'm purpose driven to do. That's a gift that I think you have to earn. And I work my tail off to get to the point of feeling like I'm heavily in purpose for my life and of purpose for the world. So that's the first piece. So when I come, I leave the stage fulfilled and happy that people enjoyed it, and I get to go home light. Like I don't come
Mm,
home heavy or argumentative. So when I'm home and I'm happy and I'm light, my life is happy. I think the world's a reflection to us. If I give that out, I get it back. So
yeah.
my house is happy. My house is peaceful. We have joy in our home.
Yeah.
It's because of how I get to go and fulfill and create. The other part is there's going to be moments in time in the future where I believe my wife and kids will run into some people. They'll have a conversation about me, and it'll be this thing that someone goes, that was your dad? God, that's a great guy. Like
Mm,
he did this for me and nobody ever knew. Like those kind of things. And so like if those are the moments that I live towards, and I'll never be present in them, but I know they'll exist in some manner, or at least my heart believes they'll exist, right? And so for me, when I'm doing my thing, what I'm most grateful for, quite literally, is the fact that I get to do something that fulfills me enough to go home and like pour out. So I get filled up as I pour out. And that in the future I'll be someone my family can be proud to say as my husband or my dad.
mm, mm. Well, you said something about joy there, and I sense that in you. Like when you are on stage, I like your smile lights up your eyes and it lights up the room. And I sense that that's kind of how you live your life, from
Yeah.
watching your Instagram stories. Like that's just who you are. How do you generate that?
Oh man, I am very, very presently aware of where I could be. It's a
Mm,
constant gratitude. Like, and it's not that I go like, here's the thing, there's gratitude practices, and I do believe you should do some.
yeah.
For me, it's an everyday thing toward the practices is just my instinctual identity now.
Mm,
Meaning I know what happens to foster kids like
yeah.
myself. I was in the system for 11 years. And if you go to any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids. 1% of us will graduate from college. We're not really given much odds to do well. It's just statistically not how it works. And so I am really aware of what my life could be, and it's
Yeah.
not. I'm aware I could be in prison. I could be a bad father. I could be a horrible husband. I could be a criminal. Like I know these things.
Mm,
And so because of the fact that I get to step into rooms, like I was just on a stage in front of 10,000 people for an event. I'm gonna fly to London to go work with Amazon. Like these things that I get to do that are
yeah.
so far outside of the norm for almost anybody, let alone this lowly foster kid. That gives me a sense of like, golly, even the bad days are great days. Like
Yeah.
it's just bad compared to how I feel on a regular basis.
Mm,
But even that gives me like, all right, salt makes things sweeter. Like I'm more appreciative for
mm,
my days and what I do have because they don't last forever. It's not like it's the end of the world for me.
mm.
It's like, oh, this got messed up. Like this morning, we got some people doing work at the house and they've been MIA for like 5 days. Very frustrating, right? But I'm
Yeah.
like, at least I have a home that's warm. And At least I have a wife that understands. And at least I have the excess income to create this cool space for myself and my family.
Right.
So those things are always like, I'm always in a joyful place. I think it would be disrespectful to my God and to my family and to my mom to not have joy for the things I do have. So when you see me on stage, I'm light, man. I'm letting Anthony out of the bottle. There's nothing, I'm not cultivating and creating it. It's just like, all right, let's go. So I get to be fully me on a stage and share and talk and jump around and, so that's like a happy place for me. So what you're seeing genuinely when you're watching me is a man in real time, presently connected to his gratitude and also to having a space to give that to the audience as best I can.
That's so beautiful. I was listening to your podcast episode this morning about honor and pride and taking pride in what you do. And I really resonate with that. I think, and then I was also reading the reviews of you speaking on stages on your website, and the specificity with which people explained how you delivered with excellence for their audience really touched me, because I've hired so many speakers and I know what it looks like. I know the full spectrum of what it looks like to show up and serve. And I appreciate that. And so your episode made me think of two things. First, one of my very favorite books is Excellence Wins by Horst Schultz. And he, I believe, was the co-founder and the CEO of Ritz-Carlton. And then it also makes me think about a story that I tell my students, which is like around that concept of like taking pride and excellence when you're building your own event, which is like kind of that live embodiment of your brand. Is like, I sit in a coffee shop sometimes and I watch the people like come around and clean the tables. And some of them will just like clean where there's crumbs or spills. And then some will clean the whole flipping table. And I'm like, be the person who cleans the whole flipping table,
Yeah, if you're going to touch it, make it amazing.
Exactly. And so it makes me want to ask you, like, why do you think it is that you take pride in your work and really believe in doing things with excellence?
It has nothing to do with anybody else, to be honest. It has 100% to do with me. That if you'd listen to the episodes recently, I had this discussion, and discussions pop up in weird ways for me.
Yeah.
But it piggybacks off this thought that the reason I don't cheat on my wife isn't just because I love my wife. It sounds odd to say it like this, and that's a weird direction to go, I know.
Yep.
But one of the greater reasons, like obviously I love my wife. It's one of the big reasons. We'll call it 50%. The other 50% is I don't want to not love me. And if I did that to someone I loved, I wouldn't love me. So I'll heavily it's because I love my wife, right? The big piece of it is I love me more than I probably should, in a sense, in an aspect of like, I want to be of integrity. So when I go to bed, I know my heart, I trust me, I love me. I don't like doing things that diminish a sense of self for me. And so I say that to go when I go and show up to certain places, I know what I have to give. Yeah. And so I give all that I have to give. The cool thing is the audience benefits, right? Because they're seeing everything that I have to give. Yeah. And I'm doing it because I know I have to give that. This is perfect because today I got an email. Because I get emails every day. It seems like we're about speeches, right? And our typical fee right now is $25,000 a keynote plus $2,500 for travel. Okay. So whenever I go out, that's what it is. Now, I worked with a company last year that asked me to come out, paid my fee, no problem. Then somebody else tied to the event reached out this morning, goes, hey, can you come out to our event? We don't have very much. Now, I only take fee drops really to a high level as if I'm doing at-risk youth and foster kids. This group says, hey, I only have $10,000 plus travel to give. And I go, I'd love to diminish it. But here's the thing. One, I have to keep fee integrity, meaning I don't want to all of a sudden have someone pay 25 and then you pay 10. It's just not good. Yeah. It's just not how I feel is of integrity for the industry. But then two, I said, I don't do anything less than my absolute best. And I have to feel like I'm reciprocated for the absolute best I give. Even if I take a 5,000 hit or a 7,000, if I agree to this, you're going to get $30,000 in value from me. It's just going to happen. It's how I'm going to show up. So I have to make sure I'm doing that at full integrity. And so it's not about them. It's not even about the money. It's just knowing that if I'm going to express, it's going to be the absolute best I have. Yeah. And then in that process, it benefits the world because nobody gets anything less from me, no matter where I go, how I walk, how I function. So it's not predicated on if I respect you or you have a high title or you've done some good things for me. You don't matter in this case. If I agree to do it, it's going to be the best. And then guess what? Everybody gets to feel that. It actually, I think all businesses live and die in the dark. Conversations had about you and nobody's present. So yeah, you might have this person, it's a high title, and you go and serve them, and then you go and serve somebody else a little bit less than because they're less than. Well, they know each other, and you don't know that. And this company was thinking about having somebody else that came along the lines, go, hey, we're looking for somebody, and you could have been that person they talked about, but you weren't
Yeah.
because they heard from their buddy how you served them better, and you didn't do it for them, and you're spiteful, so you don't say my name.
Mm.
I never know about it, right? So this idea of integrity and honoring things, anything you touch it with the mentality of it will be the absolute best I ever do, but not for other people because it's who you are to do it.
Oh, it gives me chills. That's so good. It makes me want to ask about that, that wanting to honor yourself piece and believing in yourself piece. So I've been working with my therapist over the past like a little over a year now,
Mhm.
about working on identity work and amongst other things, and kind
Yeah.
of doing my own identity shift, if you
Mhm.
will.
Oh,
And
cool.
you're so experienced in that, and you coach in that, and I think it's obviously one of the best, I call business decisions I've ever made, to start doing the work
Mhm.
on myself. And I know that
Yeah.
sounds so silly because
No,
in
it's not at all.
the
It's
past
100%
me
necessary.
would say like that's personal and this is business, but they're
No,
actually so connected, right?
it is. It's all humanity. Yeah.
And we've been getting into kind of inner child work and recognizing where there's responses that I have to certain situations that are really
Mhm.
from a different time in my life, when things were
Yeah.
different or traumatic or harder. And I know
I've
that
been
you've
there.
had quite a difficult childhood, and I wonder if it's part of, the shift work that you do with your clients, that inner child stuff, and is that something you help people work through as a coach, and if so, how?
I don't go too far back in like therapy aspects of the
Yep.
child, but here's what I will say. All of us have ways we've been programmed. And
Yes.
I agree. You cannot attain or sustain any goal or any vision in life above your current identity. So if there's things that you do that hinder a goal, and it's part of you and you just keep that there, you don't get that thing. If you
Mm.
can make shifts, you get that thing.
Yep.
And so the bigger piece to it for me is this reality of you have to understand that the child of you was programmed in a certain way. And as you grow, you do become more maturely aware of things you're doing. When you
Yes.
become maturely aware of things you're doing, what happens is you have a choice you have to make. The choice is option A. You go, oh, it's just who I am, accept me as I am. And in that, you have some frustration with the person you're talking to. You're limited on some success you can have. All those things are part of it. Or you maturely go, yeah, that part of me sucks.
Mm.
I got to stop doing that.
Mm.
And then you have to find out what actions over time can put you in the opposite of it. And it's going to be an ego hit. You're going to have to suck up your pride, and then that ego's going to have to take a little bit of a death there.
Mm.
But in doing this, you were able to build into the new direction of who you are. So for me as a kid, I didn't trust people. I mean, for obvious reasons. My mom
Yeah.
gave me away. I was beaten by these families.
Yeah.
I didn't trust adults. They all lied. It was horrible. These different people that just, so I had this wall. And so for me, for a lot of years, I was like, nobody can come in.
Mm.
All people are bad. Nobody can come in. And I honestly, I also had issues of like taking appreciation, like people saying thank you. I
Mm.
couldn't take a thank you till I was in my early 30s. It was
Wow.
weird. And so the reality is I had to sit there and go, why am I doing this? Like, and you start thinking about it. Yeah, I was a kid, this happened. I had a little bit of an anger, some trust issues there. And then, these thank you things, like when they say it, oh yeah, no big deal. I push it away, as opposed to receiving it in. I had to sit with that and go, well, when I don't let people in, I keep out the good with the bad. So I'm locking myself away from greatness there. And then also, when I don't say thank you, well, people don't get the feeling of positivity from saying thank you, so they stop saying it.
Mm.
And so I'm angry that they're not saying thank you, but they can't say it because they don't feel reciprocated. It's a weird dynamic of a dance of a
Yeah.
relationship there. But I, as an adult and maturely, can go, I don't want that to be part of me anymore.
Mm.
So now I'm going to do is I'm going to trust you till you give me a reason not to. Now, if you break my trust, you are gone quickly and never coming back. But I'll let you know that. And then two, when you say thank you, I'm going to say thank you. I received that. I appreciate
Mm.
that. And and it felt awkward, it felt out of character. It was not who I was. It was just, right. But the
Yeah.
more you do it over time, I call it the dark work. It's the stuff that you do that's uncomfortable, that's not sexy. And nobody even knows what's going on sometimes. It's not getting cheers in the background, but little, it now becomes who you are to do that. So you reprogram from the previous programming.
Mm. What would you say is like the piece of doing that dark work that's mattered the most, and you like, because this is something I struggle with, the honoring that I have worth
Yeah.
and respecting
Oh, yeah.
myself.
So that's one that's it is a little bit interesting. So the way that I would express it is it's kind of like this. You don't look at professional athletes, and when I look at them and I go, man, these people that are coming out with all this dog in them, this fight, this Tom Brady,
Yeah.
the people that have like this animalistic feel to them. And so what I notice is like they work themselves into a space where they don't go out to the field and go, I don't know if I can do this, right? I don't know if I'm capable. And so what I've noticed is individuals who have this sense of fight in the moments they need fight, what they're actually doing is they're drawing on a dark energy that they built up by doing the most ridiculous, hard, difficult things you can imagine.
Uh-huh.
I think there's a purity to our investment bias as humans that we don't tap into.
Mm.
So when you say I show up and I've had this, I showed up and wasn't confident in myself as a speaker. I'm a former NFL athlete. I'm a dumb jock. Who am I to go teach people from a stage? This is really my mentality. And I go, what do people who are great speakers do? And I go, well, they practice the craft, they hone their craft, they build into it, they create content, they're just doing these things. And I go, I've never done it before. It's not who I am to do this. I don't know if I want to. So I realized that I need to do things in action with what I'd already done for football. Here's what I noticed for football. I wasn't a good football player at first, but I had to start by doing route running and catching footballs and lifting weights and doing these things that I wasn't normally used to doing.
Yeah.
So little by little, I'm building into it. And I went from being like sucky to this phenomenal athlete, not even just great, but like this pure confidence, borderline arrogance of how good I could be on a football field. And sure enough, the flow comes and I'm great at this thing to play the highest level in the world. But it started by me not feeling worthy or confident in this area. Same for business. So when you ask what's the thing you have to do, we have to be open to the idea that our hard is far below our dreams level of hard. Meaning we have a version of what's hard to us. And I go, I can't do anymore. I'm so tired. This is too difficult, right?
Yeah.
And we will accept that in the moment. But the reality is if your dream is at a higher level, you have to climb with effort beyond that. And when you do it, two things happen. One, you oddly develop the skill that you need to have confidence around deploying because you have that skill. But secondly, you've invested beyond a level of comfort that I'm talking like it was icky. It felt like it was so hard. Because of that investment, you will not have a return.
Mm.
You will not let it go to waste. So for us, our big brand language is, I want you to show up to defining moments with the mentality of, I have done too much work in the dark to lose in the light.
Mm.
And that's that tie to the athletes I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
When they show up, they have done more things than anyone's ever seen them do. And it's not just the workouts for 2 hours. It's when they go to bed, when they wake up, their meditation, the food they eat, the food that they didn't eat,
Yes.
the relationships they had hard conversations with, the things they weren't settling for. These things they did when they get to that game day, it's like, it's not a, can I do this? I don't know if they're like, let me loose. It's my time. Like I take the chains off. I'm ready to rock and roll. There's a different energy. And the only reason they have that is because of what they did when no one saw.
Mm.
And so all of us have, again, that 1% effort like opportunity, but few of us get to that point. We may give that 90th percentile energy, and that's pretty good still, 95. But when you give that 1%, you know you gave 1%.
Yes.
And you will fight different. You will battle different. You will show up different. And on top of that, because you gave the effort, you also have this confidence in the skill you developed. It's a magical, powerful place that anybody can access, but 1% do. And so for me, when I talk about this dark work stuff, there's a lot that goes into it. How you actually clarify what it is you want to go after. I call respecting the light. How you actually design your dark work, because you can't just emotionally do it. It's got to be a plan. Yes. Then how do you actually step into the next stage and emerge into it? But the big critical piece of that is realizing that when you get to those moments where you're at that point of, I don't want to move. If fitness is a good way to show it, because it's you can put yourself emotionally and physically there. There's a moment in time when we're doing a workout and we can't breathe. Our muscles are sore. And we have 5 more sets or 5 more reps, whatever it is. And I go, I can't do it. In your head, you can't do it. And here's the cool thing. That's a beautiful gift of a moment. Because in this moment, I have hit my peak, which means that any movement I do beyond this, I know I'm getting better. 99% of people will stop because no one's going to know but them. And they stop. The 1% of people lean in because they know that no one will know but them. And when they do it at that level, now you have this better ability physically. And your mind is different.
Yeah.
That means when you show up in the world, your confidence is different. Your head's held higher. You got a different swag to you. You stack that for day after day. You stack that for years. You got animals that go out into the world and they get what they want, not off of luck, but off of that's who their identity is now.
Oh, so good. I had a moment. I did a 30-day juice fast last year. And then I've been really leaning into ice baths over the past few months. And it just had this like click for me that the doing the hard things like prepare you for other hard things, like you're just
Oh, heck yeah, they
describing.
do.
Yeah.
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 You borrow it and take it somewhere else. It's just,
Exactly. It's like
yeah.
yeah, it's fuel. I'm reading
It
this.
is. That's why you got athletes that step into different stuff. And I tie it in because they are the ones that people predominantly know.
Yeah.
But they'll try businesses, and there's movie stars and business entrepreneurs that'll try, like, look at Mark Zuckerberg wanted to pick up him and Elon Musk and go do, jujitsu. And it's like when you have this confidence in one area,
Yeah.
you have a sense of self, of an identity that goes, if I take this identity somewhere else, it will be successful.
Yes.
Because I know how to get there.
Yes.
And so you do need to bring it over, but you have to build it somewhere, right? So if you don't have a successful business, great. Maybe you don't identify with the successful business as the trait that makes you have confidence, but you identify with the fact that you've been able to take care of your body.
Yes.
Or every day for the last, whatever, 3 months, you've done a cold bath. Like, that's why people do
Yes.
these things. It's not just for the physical benefits. It's for the mind more than the body.
Yeah.
Because when the mind is there, it'll drive the body. And when you can separate the two, meaning when your body is no longer controlling the situation, your mind is, nothing gets in your way.
Nothing can
Because
stop you.
typically you go, my body goes, it's cold. The mind goes, you're right, body, let's not do it.
Yes.
When the body goes, it's cold, the mind goes, I don't care, we're doing it. And you subject the body to it. You're now in control. And that's a different state of power.
So good. So good. I'm reading a book right now. 10x is easier than 2x.
I have that. Haven't read it, but I got it right over there, actually.
So good. Can't recommend it higher enough.
It's like an orange 10. Yeah, I'm looking right at it. It's the top book. I haven't opened it yet, though. I'm looking right at it.
I got the pleasure. I'm in Stu and Amy McLaren's book membership, and they brought in the author last month, a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the best Zoom I've ever been on my whole life. Learning from him was just like mind blowing. But it's making me want to ask you the question about, how do you win when you're playing your own game and making your own rules? Because now it's different. You're an entrepreneur, right?
It is. Well, two things. One, because this is me. It's how I operate and function. Two is I actually set up a structure to where I'm not going to be guided by my emotions. I cannot be, because I am human and my feelings are the same as everybody else's feelings. And if I run off of my emotions, then what happens is I'm in a place where if I feel good, I do it. If I don't, I don't. And a business can't run like that. You can't have success. You can't make impact. You can't make income doing that. That's why I say design your dark. People try to stay disciplined to emotions, but emotions change, so your discipline will change. But if you have a plan and you're disciplined to a plan, the plan won't change. You may step back and change it, but the plan won't change, which means you get up in the morning, it's like you have a boss. The boss is the schedule that old Anthony created. That plan, that's the boss today. That's what I'm listening to. I'm not negotiating with the boss said to do it. I'm doing it. Kobe Bryant talks about this. I set a contract, I'm not negotiating the contract. Same exact logic, right? But then you also go, well, what if the plan isn't enough and I want to push myself? Here's a good thought of this. I actually am a guy who has a degree in kinesiology, owned a gym for a decade, trained pro bowlers. I do not write my own workouts. I know I'll make them easier, even I don't want to. It is hard to make a workout that I'm like, I'll do that. That's super hard. But if you give me one, if somebody who has a space of intelligence I trust, if they write it out, I won't even talk to them about like trying to get it lesser. I will do everything they say, and I lock it and I do it. It's hard. I know it's going to be hard, but for some reason I found like that's a dance I don't do well. So I say that to go, when I get to my business, I have people that I talk to that will stretch me to be 1 inch out of my comfort zone. I'll tell them what I want to do, but I'll have them review it and they go, that sounds good, but you put 100 here. Why not 1,000?
Yes.
Oh, what do you mean? Yeah, you could do 1,000. It was to say what you could do for 100 once the system's running it, you can get to 1,000 this year. You're right. Okay, right. Or it's like, hey, your fee's this. Why not make it this? Well, I don't know. Hey, just what do you got to do to make it this? Okay, right. These little things tie in. And so when I get to this point of being, I say 1 inch out of control or 1 inch out of comfort, I will ask people to give me insights and I backtrack and go, okay, now that's the situation. I'm not negotiating it down. What do I have to do to create a plan to make that happen that I can be disciplined to? And now I get into motion. And for me, it's not about the big hurrah. I tell people, I don't even like saying the words, I'm going to go big. I hate it because to go big means I'm going to give one big and then I'm done.
Yeah.
The reality is I want to learn to go really small in a humongous way because the small thing is what builds to the big thing. And most people want to have the big thing. And I go, no, the big thing's not going to happen or you're not going to maintain it. And so for me, I go, what's the goal at the end destination? What's the small thing I have to implement in my day every day? 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe an hour a day. And it's some of them are harder. An hour a day is hard, but I'll do it. And when I do that and I get used to it, two things happen. One, I get what I want and beyond it. Two, it goes from being hard to do to hard not to do.
Mm.
And there's a little special thing in there that people, they don't pay attention to. There is something we all do right now that is like drinking water and breathing air for us. It's easy. For somebody else, they've been battling it for the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Yes.
They can't figure out how to do it. So they have not been able to access the point of success that you or I have had. And if I look at that thing that's separated, it's really only the thing that I started just doing this. I had the same pain they had, but I go, I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing it. And I've kept butting my head against it. And eventually it becomes something where when I do it, not only is it hard not to do, it's in my integrity and my identity to get it done. And if I don't feel like the same Anthony.
Mm.
I feel like I'm letting myself down. So if I got to film, like every night I do a daily podcast every weekday. I'm telling you, 80% of the time, I don't want to do it. 10 o'clock hits, I go, I just want to go to bed,
Yes.
but it's who I am to do it. There's no way I'm going to bed without getting it done. And I will sometimes get up out of bed if I forgot. I will get myself down here at 1 a.m. and I'm recording and knocking it out. And I go to bed and I sleep better.
Yeah.
Right. And the idea is it's who I am to do it. And here's the cool, on the far side of it, lo and behold, I got success in terms of podcasts and bookings, and these things
Yes.
get built up and built up. And I go, how'd you get so disciplined to do it every day? I didn't get disciplined to do it. Doing it made me disciplined.
Yes.
And that's the magic of all these little things I'm talking to, and most people fall short of. So really at the end of the day, the way I got into it was I set something and I have somebody come out and say, hey, this could be higher. And I attached myself to that small action and I roll into it. And all of a sudden, we call it magic, there's success. Few people, unfortunately, do this. And if they did, your life would change. That's literally what I do in my dark work is we take all these little segments, we break them to 10 areas and go, here are the segments of your life. Let's figure out which ones you want to put in on kind of the pedestal first and add to the point of like your natural cadence to where 2-3 months from now, it's not hard to do this. It's just what you do.
Mm.
And now you can stack the next level of success on top because it's going to emotionally feel just as easy as it does today. And that's how you see continued growth over time.
Is that a course or a group coaching or a membership?
It's one-on-one at the moment.
Okay.
The reason I do it, because the group stuff's cool, but I need to get to the heart and the depth of you.
Yeah.
People don't like doing that openly with strangers. And it's okay. I get it.
Yeah.
So what we do is have a process that's guided not just by, how do you feel today? There's a very specific process to every single call we do to guide, to build, to pretty much prepare.
Yes.
But 3 weeks of like back and forth, we get everything dialed in and they have like an action day. And it starts a 90-day process of us keeping you in pocket. Because a lot of people also, the issue is like courses are like information, great, and I learn it, but they don't apply it.
Right.
97% of courses don't get finished. Drives me insane. I go, how's only 3% of people finish these things? That's saying they finish.
No, and I'm like a finisher. And so it's mind blowing, that stat. Like, I don't understand it. Like, I bought it. I'm going to do it. Like, I don't understand. What are other people doing?
50% of people don't even log in. I've literally watched like stats from, I think it was Teachable. 50% of people buy a program and not even log into it. So what happens is you just don't even get in. So what I look at is our program is based around, I'm not going to teach you a whole bunch.
Yeah.
What I've learned, we're going to do the work together. Then I'm going to get you into motion. We're going to track every day of what you do. We have apps, we have at-home sheets you get, we have meetings every single week. It is intact where you're not wandering, right? Because that's the thing is I need you to wake up in 3 months and go, I feel this sense of limitless, ridiculous power.
Yes.
I can do anything. And it's not because I gave it to you. It's because I held you to the ground and said, hey, keep walking these steps.
Yes.
And you had some clarity and you had the funky moments. But the process, it's beautiful at the end. So you walk out and you're like, not only is this thing accomplished and then some, you have the sense of I can accomplish anything and more unfolds in time.
So cool. I'm going to link that up in the show notes for people.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to shift for a moment and talk about family and parenting. So
let's do that.
I love your philosophy around being a present parent. And it's something I really value too. And I work very hard to create experiences that we can share as a family and could share with just mother-daughter. And it makes me wonder, we're both entrepreneurs. And I think that lens has made me think differently over the past 8 or so years that I've been an entrepreneur. And it's made me think really thoughtfully about consider what lessons that I want to impart on my daughter. And I think about things like I want her to know what it's like, that it's possible to create income outside of the traditional 9 to 5,
Yeah.
because I didn't
Mhm.
know that. And I want
Neither
her to
did
know
I.
it's
Mhm.
possible. Maybe it's not her path, but I want to know also then how to grow that wealth, because I was never
Yeah.
taught that. And that
Same.
is like vital to me. And then third, I think about self-awareness and self-compassion, because I don't think that there's anything more important that you can, like, gift you can give yourself than emotional
You are.
intelligence. And
Heck yeah.
and I wonder, what lessons are you working to impart on your children?
Some of the same, man. So one is I need them to realize that they can actually create the income, but it's going to take certain things they have to do that aren't comfortable, right? So I literally will tell my kids, I say, do you guys want this life? Do you like this life you live? They go, yeah. I go, well, if you don't adhere to what me and your mom are trying to teach you, this will not be your life. You
Ah,
won't experience this.
yeah.
So if you want to take trips, have freedom, buy what you want to buy, go and do what you want for your own kids or for yourself. If you don't understand why we're saying get up and clean the dish, do your
Yes.
chore, these little things that seem simple. You mean your mom do this. We don't even sit on the couch till the day is done, till you're picked up, till dinner's done. Imagine if we chose, I don't want to pick you up from school today. I don't want to do dinner for you guys today. Would you eat? No, but that's what we do before we sit on the couch, where you guys come home, mess everywhere, and sit down. I go, you're not going to realize until later when it's too late that you're behind the ball.
Yeah.
You're not going to just live in my house and mooch off me. So if you want this lifestyle, here's what it takes. It's the first part of it. But we tell them we're going to give you opportunities to understand what that is. So I let them do things to work. Like we actually have tasks at the house they can actually do and make money doing it.
Mm.
It's not rocket science, but it's going to be hard. And they're going to get paid minimum wage. That's how it starts till you build up and you create value enough to be worth more.
Mm.
I'm not going to overpay you because you're my kid. It doesn't make any sense. So we build these kind of thoughts and ideas into them. And in the sense of self-worth, it's twofold. We poke each other as a family a lot. I'm the fat guy in the house, which is weird because I'm not really actually fat, but compared to the rest of my family, I'm the most pudgy, we'll call it. I'm a grown man. And so my wife, she's shredded, does track. My twins do stuff. My oldest is, off in college and this thing running track. So but it's a reality. And the thing is, while we understand that's what the case of it is, like no one was, you're pudgy, dad. Like, I don't like hearing it, but I know it. I'm all right. I don't need to eat that extra cinnamon roll. And we can keep each other accountable. But here's what happens is them hearing feedback, it's not you're amazing, doesn't diminish their sense of self-worth. But on the flip side, we also let them know when they're doing dope things.
Yes.
Like, hey, I see you killing it. I got you. And most people don't give the positive praise. It's really weird. Like, it's hard for us as humans to do sometimes. But if my son's room is looking good, hey, bro, I see you getting room done. Like, good job. Like, that's all he needs. Little stuff to feel positive.
Yes.
So the self-worth is built through them. Essentially, they can hear things that aren't the greatest and go, okay, I can be better. It's not like it's a stamp on your humanity forever. When they do those good things, they get positive feedback for giving the effort.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just so great for no reason. You're amazing just because. It's like, nah, bro, you're great because you gave the effort here. And I see that. Thank you. Like your grades look good. So we let them get the sense of the balance, because I think it's not just about building them up. It's about making sure they don't get torn down so quick too.
Mm.
Because we can build you up and make you feel great. And then you enter the world and all of a sudden the world doesn't do what I do. The world says, hey, you suck at this, bro. What's going on? Like,
Yes.
hey, what's wrong with, like, and they poke you. If you can't take being poked, all that positive is drained quick and you can't figure out why. I thought I was so great. But now they have this gauge of like, all right, I can poke dad, right? And he can say that. And I see what dad did. Dad went ahead and stopped eating that, or he worked a little bit harder. He did extra stuff and
Yeah.
he didn't feel bad and he got it. And then he dished it out to me. Like my daughter comes out like, dang, look at your hair all messed up today, right? You can say that. She goes, oh, okay, I got to do my hair, right? And you can do it. Go, look at you. I see you fine giving us men for taking care of yourself. Like little weird stuff. It's not big, but the dance of it over the years gets ingrained to where they understand
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to not be perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it also is a space where you can be better. And if I do well, I do get the positive praise. I do feel good about myself. And now they're prepared for a real world, which typically is the same. They're going to poke you and prod you.
Yes.
You take the feedback and you go, oh, okay, cool. I can get better. You don't diminish your sense of self. And when you do well, the world says, good job. You feel good about yourself. You do more and more to feel better about yourself in time.
Mm.
It's a journey over time.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
I got my
Reminds me of,
dogs in this.
yeah, you can hear your dogs in the background.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Mine is just napping downstairs. It made me think about the book right before 10x is easier than 2x is called The Gap and the Gain. And so
Yeah, I've heard
I
of it.
have you read that one?
I have. Well, I've heard parts of
Okay.
it, but I
So
haven't read all of it. Conceptually, I totally get it. We focus on the gap more than the game.
yeah,
Yes.
well, so we started this family dinner table routine a few weeks ago after I finished that book, where it's like we got to do 3 wins from the day each, and we got to do 3 forecasted wins for the next day each.
Yeah.
and then I review mine in the morning because that's how the book says to do it. And it is magical when you really are measuring backwards instead of measuring forwards is the ideal. And I do want to impart that skill set like you're doing with your children on my daughter, because I do think that's
Mhm.
so important to get that sense of self-worth on, like, yeah, I did that and I am proud of
Yeah.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah, which is where it comes from. I mean, my self-worth comes from the efforts I gave. When we try to give people self-worth by just giving them positive praise, they don't actually there's that, what do they call it? Cognitive bias or cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
We know.
Yeah.
Like when you tell yourself something and your mind knows, you can't change your mind with your mind, if that makes sense. You have to change your mind with actions and proof. And so when I
So
go, "You're
good.
just so great. You're just so right," their brain goes, "Oh, my mom thinks I'm great," and they're still like, "But what did I do?" And their brain not might recognize it. Now they're trying to like reconcile why they should feel
Yeah.
great when they don't feel great. They didn't do anything great. But if they did something crazy hard, like my daughter and my son, they do workouts, right? They do a workout and their numbers go up. They get faster.
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah. I say, you got that. I remember those days you did
Mhm.
work day. Yeah.
Yeah.
They do know they did it. Their brain goes, hey, I did do that.
Mm-hmm.
I do deserve it. And then it's locked in different. And they get the different swag. They're looser, they're doing. And that's the gift I want to give them more than just, you're amazing. Because at some point, I'm not going to be there to say that. And someone else is going to say it to them. And if they don't have proof, it's hard to say it to yourself.
Ooh.
So I like to give them situations and moments that allow them to fight through something hard, that dark work I keep talking
Yes.
about. Because when you do that, that's where the self-esteem, the pride, the power comes from. And it becomes momentous. It builds in time. Because when it's who you are to do those things, you're not going to let yourself down. You're going to fight more. And if you do get off track, you go, okay, I got off track. It's not who I am to be off track. Let's get back on my path.
Yeah.
You snap back into who you have built yourself to be.
Mm.
But without those things, without that proof in the past, it's very hard, if not impossible, to wake up and have that sense of power. I can do no matter what this next thing. And that, I believe, is what our lack of our world is having right now. Is you got a bunch of people that they don't do hard things. We're catering to the weakness. And when you do that, you do have more depression and sadness because people aren't doing hard stuff
Yes.
to make themselves feel great. And I'm not saying you got to go build something and do CrossFit. Your version of hard, was it hard to learn that piano, that
Yes.
song? Do it. Cool. And then when you get done, you go, I feel good about myself, right?
Totally.
When you rob this of people and kids just to make it easy, you rob them of that personal power they need to actually feel better about themselves in the long run.
So good. What a gift. I've been an Oregonian for about 5.5 years now. And I
Oh,
know
man.
you have
There you
some
go.
ties to Oregon. I see your helmet in the
I do.
background. Tell
My son's up there now,
yeah,
going to school.
tell me what it's like as a parent to have your kid follow in your footsteps. So
Oh,
your
it's awesome, man.
alma mater.
You know what? I love that he's there. My wife and I both went there, but I want him to carve out his complete own experience of it. I don't want to go up there and be like, you're in my shoes, my place. And this is where I do tell him like, I went to this track town pizza place we went here, right?
Yeah.
But I like to ask him, hey, what's going on here? Like I want him to share the things about it because I have to ask because I don't know about it,
Mm-hmm.
And it's his own footing. It's his own thing.
Yeah.
Because if not, then he does feel like there's that shadow possible feel. He's not doing football, which is good. He's doing his own thing, carving his own track out, literally while running track. But I think that the fun part for me is he is enjoying his experience. That's it. He thoroughly is enjoying it. And he doesn't like when we call it home. When we go, hey, I'm going to send you home. He goes, that's not my home. My home is here.
Oh,
I go, oh,
that's
okay.
so sweet.
So he knows where home's at. He's just off in college. But that's a thing we had to work and build. But it lets us know like he's centered, man. He's dialed in. I don't worry about him. He's a good human being, like solid human being. He's working his butt off. He knows he can be better. He takes feedback from his coaches and myself, my wife pretty well, and he works towards things. All the traits you need a developing human to have, this guy's got it. He's lucked out. We definitely lucked out in some aspects. We worked our tail off, but some of that's got to be part luck because we got other kids who aren't as dialed in, And I love all my kids, don't get me wrong, but like some, they're taking it a little bit easier. Some you can like they open their mouth, and some it's like you gotta like pry their mouth open and feed them. And so he's doing well. It's fun to watch.
All right, last question as we wrap up here. I just value lifelong learning so much, and I subscribe to that school of thought that we have to design our own curriculum. And I'm wondering, what are you reading right now, and why did you pick that book?
Oh man, that's a good question. I got a couple books. I open a bunch of books and don't finish all of them, which is kind of interesting. But at the moment, I'm reading one that's more tactical called One Away, and it's more about like marketing and funnels and everything. not any personal development books on the docket at the moment. One I did receive recently from my buddy Trent Shelton called Protect Your Peace, which
Mm,
I think it's a good time for me to read,
yeah.
mostly because you get to a certain stage, there's an onslaught of people that want access to you.
Yeah.
Like people don't realize when you have like notoriety in some way, and I'm not a big name, I'm just a guy, but in my area and what I do,
Yeah.
people like me and that
Yeah.
have a followership, right? I'm not diminishing my impact on the world, but I'm not this like, look at me, I'm the president. Like some people get a little big up
Yeah.
there. And so for me, I do have a space of realizing like I've asked for this. I want to have this impact. With the impact comes more things. And if I want to be able to continue serving and reaching more, I have to have a sense of like protecting my space. And so the
Yes.
protecting of my peace is big. That's why for me, like family's first. I oddly, this is not a good thing. I don't post on social media all the time, story wise at least. I'm not out at every event I can be. I'm not traveling the world all day because I want to be home
Yeah.
with my family,
Yeah.
with my friends. I want to be here because I want to enjoy the life I'm developing and building. But
Mhm.
with that comes poking and prodding. And so
Yeah.
making sure I have solid boundaries and having peace in my household, peace in my heart to be able to give to my marriage and my household and serve the world, it's critical. And so that's a book that I'm looking forward to picking up. He
Mm.
sent me a copy of it. It just came out today, actually, or yesterday, I want to say, from when we're recording this. But yeah, from what I read, one of the chapters he recommended I read. It's a very good book so far from that one chapter. So that's one that I'm digging into now.
Oh, I want to read that one too. All right, Anthony,
Grab it.
what have you got going on right now that we should know about, and where can Lynchpin Nation find you?
Oh, so here's the thing. I don't know when it's coming out, but the whole brand of Dark Work launches very shortly.
Okay.
So if you go to darkwork.com, you'll see a holder website or you'll see the full website, which
Yay.
is pretty much like 95% there.
Okay.
And then everything takes off. We got a beautiful studio in Phoenix we've been using to be able to do some real cool like backdrop and set. It looks amazing. So podcasts will come out. We'll have the program of what's called a Dark Work experience to guide people through what we're talking to. Because it's not, I call it an experience because experience is the only thing that wires us neurologically and psychologically differently. We're talking about things now as our identity.
Yes.
It's how you're wired neurologically and psychologically. That's what this experience does for people. So we guide them through this, set it all up, and hold their hand through to where they exit this whole place and emerge as monsters who go into the world and do great
Yes.
things. Outside of that, I'm just dad, husband. I don't know. I do all my same things. I tell people I'm a regular guy with an irregular skill set and desire to help the world. So that's how I'm going to keep showing up.
Appreciate you, Anthony. Thanks for being here today.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Green Room Central podcast. If you loved this episode, then please take a screenshot on your phone and post it to Instagram, and be sure to tag @SarahPfeiffer and let me know why you liked it and what you'd like to hear, or who you'd like to hear from in the future. That'll help me know what to create for you. Also, if scaling events in your business sounds like something you want to tackle this year and you need a coach, let's connect to see if one-on-one coaching is for you. Just go to greenroomcentral.com. You and I can work together one-on-one throughout the course of the year and dive deep into the inner workings of your events and business. You'll receive mentorship, personalized feedback, and customized guidance to define your goals and achieve your next level of success. Just go to greenroomcentral.com right now to apply. I appreciate your commitment to leveling up and learning the mindset and strategy of live events. Keep going. Keep learning. If you want more, head over to greenroomcentral.com for show notes and all the links from today's episode.